Thanks for joining us today. We have a special guest with us today, Luke Gordon, betrayal, trauma, sexual addiction, men's mental health life coach, all of the above and more. And Amy's not with us today. It's just Luke and I. And this is a bonus episode where we're really going to look at some of the questions that we get so often that I see women just want to know about why their partner did what they did. And I will with this episode where normally I try to avoid gender. This one I am going to just use a gender of male and female simply because I want you, Luke, to authentically get in the mind of an addict. And specifically, a lot of women really struggle to understand what could possibly be happening in their husband's or partner's brain, have a hard time understanding what that thought process is. How could they do this? What were they thinking? If anything, did they ever feel guilt? Did they ever think about them? Was I enough? All of these questions that come up. And today I'm more just going to interview you, Luke, and ask the questions that I hear the women asking and wanting to know. This episode, what kind of prompted this episode is we have an intensive coming up in a couple of weeks, the end of October. And Luke, you are coming to that and speaking to the women and doing a live Q&A session. And what's always been interesting to me is when I have run groups, we in our groups make room for questions every single week. And I would feel like, man, I know my women. I know what questions they have. I'm pretty sure I know what they're going to ask Luke. And I would bring Luke into the group, I don't know, every 6 months or so and let him answer their questions. And then they would come up with these questions once you got in front of them, Luke, that I was like, whoa, like that's a big, deep, heavy question that never came up in group. And so there's something around when they get with somebody who truly knows and gets and has been there themselves what this type of thinking looks like. It's so interesting hearing some of those really deep questions that come out. Long introduction, but Luke, thank you
Can
for
I
being,
add something to that?
please.
What I found out is it's a very hard, rewarding experience for me to go to those. And because I for the men that would get a chance to hear this, because we are going to say men and women. Is that what I heard you say, Alana?
Yeah, but this one I'm good with it.
With this one, we're good with it. So for the men that I work with, I have the opportunity to sit with a spouse and talk about the specific behavior. And often it will be my behavior and not tie shame to it. And it is such a rewarding experience and hard experience, at least for me, to be able to be present in that emotion with the group. And I go there and I feel the women show up and just so badly want answers to these questions. And I get from them what I wish their husbands got, which is that, or their partners got, which is that connection in that experience of, oh, that makes sense. Cause my walls are down, like to a certain extent, it's still difficult. My walls are down and there's not be for connection. I'm like, I want that for him. I want him to show up because I don't have the shame because I didn't hurt him, but we're talking about the heart very specifically. So anyway, just wanted to say that.
And that's an interesting point because you're right. I see so often that the person who has been betrayed have such a hard time holding their partner's stuff because all of their shame does come block and get in the way. But also for a partner who is trying to heal from betrayal, they can ask you questions and hear answers with more of that emotional safety. Because if you give them an answer they don't like, they can just write it off of, okay, I'm not listening to that dude. But if their husband or their boyfriend gives them an answer they don't like, of how deeply that hurts. And so sometimes we can hear each other better when it's coming from somebody else, which I think why is podcasts like this can be so helpful, or women coming to this intensive and being able to be with you can be so helpful. And I actually am thinking of another intensive we did a while back where there was a group of, I don't know, 30 or 40 women. And I told them before you came up, I said, you can ask any of the questions, throw your hardest at him. Don't hold back. And so there were women who, like, got mad at you,
Mhm.
and because you represented men and represented their pain. And there's just something really beautiful in you being able to hold that space for them and let them be angry and validate that. And it can just be really healing. So, you coming and being able to tackle some of these questions today, thank you for that. And I will say to the women who are listening, any feelings you have listening to this are okay and welcome. There's different parts in the journey where if I heard this type of conversation, I would want to stab the man who was speaking because of where I was at in my own pain. And there's other times I would want to cry in gratitude and everywhere in between. And so just whatever comes up authentically, w we welcome them, and that's okay.
And, one other thing I wanna say is my experience isn't every other man's experience, so I have my template in the way it is, and I'm sorry if that goes from, "Oh, I now I have complete clarity," and then Luke said this, and I think that's how my husband or my partner showing up. I just recognize that this is that every man has is having a different experience, but we're gonna speak to a lot of the similarities.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I think the place I wanna start then, first question I wanna ask you, and I'm gonna actually give you, like, 3 different questions, but they're all the same energy.
Okay.
So it's, what did I do to deserve this? Am I not enough for you? If I looked different, if I acted different, if I did something different, would you not have done this to me?
Can you share with me more before I answer that question? When you say, "Oh, they all come with the same energy," would you share that more with that with me?
Yeah, when I say they all come with the same energy, it's all about what we do when we've been betrayed as we internalize it about ourselves. And the deeper we internalize it, the more pain there is. And so, as much as possible, when I'm doing work with women and men, I'm trying to help them not internalize it. But it is so hard. So, those questions of, was I not enough? What did I do wrong? Could I have done something different to make this not happen? Are so real and come up in so many different ways.
Okay. Alright, so what's the question again? Now that I got my head around that part?
Am I not enough for you? If I looked, acted differently, or did something differently, would you not have done this? Or what did I do to deserve this?
Mm. This is probably one of the harder ones to talk about because what I wanted to run to is, "Yet you are enough. It's my problem. As this is my problem, you're enough." And that is absolutely accurate, but let's go deeper than that. So, like, the what is actually behind that. So, when I showed up to my relationship in the beginning, I wasn't an emotionally healthy person. I didn't finish my growing up maturing process. So, immediately I put my partner in a place where they needed to provide certain things for me that they technically, them or anybody else wasn't capable of. And so every time he says, "No, you are enough," he's slapping you in the face because nobody could be enough. Because what he was trying to get filled and held, nobody was going to be capable of. And so, in and of yourself, heck yeah, you're enough, right? Can I just want to say that to begin with? Like, you are enough. It's not about you. And then it's everything because it surrounds you because it's relational. And so we wanna have that big "and" inside of there and recognizes both parts of this. Because what I wanted to tell Alana was, "No, you're enough." Well, that's just a slap in the face, right? Slap in the face because it's a me thing, right? So that's not from what I hear, and Alana, if you could speak to this, is not really super validating for my partner to just say, "Yeah, you are," because there's missing pieces. So, anyway, that's
No, I really like that answer. And you hear that where they'll say, it's nothing about you. It's really about me. And yes, while it's nothing about you, all of it impacts you. And so both of those are true. And even what I see is even when I have the person who has betrayed when they are in a place of blaming. If you would have done this more, if you would have done this more, A, it shows where they are in their work. But B, truly, when you do dig down, you do discover it is like the way all of us respond is because of our own things that are happening internally within us. And so I just appreciate you saying that. It's nothing about you, but everything about you because it impacts you.
Yeah, yeah,
You didn't do anything wrong.
and you're not wrong when you say something like, "Maybe if I woulda had sex more," or, "Maybe if I was more sexual in our experiences, maybe that would've" maybe for a moment, right? Maybe, for a tiny sliver of something, but that is not the root of what's going on here. That is, it's really painful to hear about women, because 'cause you're allowing that to be the case here, Alana. Today, we're talking about the traditional woman and man experience of man being the person that's compulsive, is there can be some curbing of some behavior through control, right? For both people, but it doesn't tackle root. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't fix anything.
Well,
So
not only that, it can perpetuate
perpetuate, yeah.
really unhealthy patterns because my mother gave me the book. We had probably been married at that point like 6 or 7 years, but she gave me the book, The Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands by Dr. Laura Schlechter.
Oh my goodness.
And
Oh my goodness.
in the book's defense, in the very first page or 2, it says if there is addiction or abuse happening, this book does not apply. And I didn't know that emotional abuse or addiction were happening, but I took that book to heart, and I was all about making my husband's life as happy and easy and comfortable as I could, and making sure I was sexually available, making sure that his life, when he walked in the door from work, he was very comfortable and he was happy and he was so well taken care of. And the reality is, he did like that. And there was a positive response from that. And what it did is it further enabled even more those unhealthy patterns that we were in that we did not know about to not only continue, but to thrive. And it played in big time to the addiction actually increasing and entitlement increasing. And he was happier with me.
Yeah,
But overall, big picture, it was not better.
yeah. Yeah, totally. I think about that. You're like, you did a kick butt job. Do we cuss here or no?
Amy loves to cuss. Amy, I'm not throwing you under the bus. I cuss all the time. I just don't cuss on the podcast.
Okay. But anyway, you did a kick butt job, like, providing that environment that book said, and I'll tell you, I don't like the book in general. I don't care whether it is, because I think nuances of relationships with men in general, there's a catering to that's not helpful. So whether you experience addiction or not, culture's set up to there's not a lot of there's a lot of inequality there, and a lot of not a lot of partnership. But anyway, I won't go on that. So what we have with that is, as long as you did a kick butt job creating an environment, and that's the enough that we're talking about. There you couldn't do I was always gonna expect more, and I was gonna
Mhm.
get used to the best that you could give, right? And I was gonna get used to that, and then there was gonna be a little bit more. And that's the addictive mindset, right? Whatever I have, it's not gonna be enough. So it wasn't about you, but everything around you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the next question. We were only going to do like a 15-minute episode, and I think we've already gone past 15 minutes, but I do want to hit a couple of questions. There's so many good ones, and I feel like every one that I have is going to open up a can of worms. Let's go to ones around trust and honesty. I see a lot of those.
Mhm.
One question I see is, how do I know you're telling me the truth now? Or how can I believe anything you say now?
Oh, man, the first thing I run to is it's the scariest part out there. It's the part that I don't wanna believe, and technically the part that I'm traumatized I never believe. It's about when I find myself in denial or in deceit, I can find that relatively quickly and I can come forward on it. So it's not the perfectionism. It's not the I will never lie again. It's the what can bring comfort long term that somebody shows up and shows the parts that they don't wanna be seeing, they don't wanna be seeing themselves, and they don't want other people to see. So, it's that part of, what am I noticing my partner do to be seen and be real and what they don't are not proud of, right? So, it's bigger than just the lying the part, it's the integrity, it's the transparency on the experience. We get
This is a
caught in the "You lied," right? There was a lie, right? Or "I lied, and now I can't be seen." Oh, I wasn't perfect.
this is a hard one because I've lived here of, "No, you will be perfect or we're done." And I didn't use the words perfect, but no, you're not gonna mess up again. Like, you're not gonna lie to me, you're not gonna mess up, you're not going to like, you betray me, I'm done. And, so I wanted perfect. I felt like I deserved nothing but perfect. And while that may be true that I did not deserve anything that happened to me, the reality of this and of humans is we aren't perfect and we don't move from being very broken to being perfect. A,
Yeah,
nobody's perfect, but
yeah.
B, growing is a process from where we're at. So what you're saying is we have to have truth, honesty, and transparency in the imperfection, and that's where the trust is built.
That's where it's built. It's not built from being perfect. That's so problematic to think that my partner's gonna start to trust me out of perfection. That's not how trust gets rebuilt of them watching me fall and stand up and learn and share that experience. And I think it's
When you say fall, does that mean that they have to go back to cheating or go back to addictive behavior? Is that what you mean by fall?
no, it's just how quick they become. Okay, here's the word that we have a hard time with: lying on both sides, the person that's been betrayed and the person that did the betraying. Lying is this, everybody sees it as a problem. Both people do. They're like, I see it as a problem. It is the problem. What we do is we recognize it's actually awareness is the problem. I lack awareness of my experience, of what's going on in my life. So this is the hard truth for the person that's been betrayed. You will have a front row seat to your partner becoming more and more aware, unpacking layer by layer. So it's not just the lies that they're aware of, it's the lies and it's denial about what they're actually experiencing. So when they come out of it, they'll actually come out of it and come into awareness in shame. That's their first response in that awareness. And so if I'm just after just straight up, just always be truth to me, it means like that person has to be completely aware of everything to begin with. Again, nuanced. There's some grayness in here, but anyway, just thoughts.
Okay, this is the yeah. So then I go back to that initial question of how do I know you're telling me the truth or how can I believe anything? What I hear you say is that there's this process of coming into reality, process of shedding the denial, process of coming to truth. And it's how open and honest are they in that process? And I think what I wanted when I was in this journey was like, give me the answer that will guarantee that I'm safe moving forward. And I almost want to cry with that
Yeah, I
because
know.
there's
Me
so
too.
much emotion of almost this begging and pleading of just tell me how I can be safe. And there is no like guarantee that you're getting the honest truth. There is no 1,000% assurance to love and to invest in again takes a level of risk. And as you're utilizing these healthy tools, as you're coming into honesty and transparency, that's where that trust starts to get rebuilt. It is not restored, it gets rebuilt little tiny piece by little tiny piece.
Yeah, you can't restore something that doesn't exist. It was a fallacy, not what he was providing for you and what reality was. That's the fallacy.
That there's a lot of grief that comes with that loss of trust. For a betrayed partner to feel like they really can trust and then all of a sudden discover that they can't. There's such a loss there, and with that loss comes a lot of grief. So I just wanna hold space for that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, one more question,
Okay.
and then if you want more, come to the intensive. You can have a whole hour and a half of your individual questions, but okay. How could you risk everything we built together? How could you jeopardize everything?
Mm, just when you get stoned out of your brain and you're surviving, there's nothing conscious about that.
What do you mean?
Okay, so this could be super, super triggering. I'm sorry if the impact is hopefully there's some helpfulness and not just hurt inside of this. At the when I would conclude an acting out experience, okay, when I would be done with it, whatever it was, cheating, masturbation, pornography, whatever it is, I would get done with that experience and I would all of a sudden come out of like a trance of sorts. I don't even know how to describe it. And I would look around and it was very short moment and I would go, "What did you do? Why did you do that?" And I think that it's like the frog in the boiling water, right? Little bit by little bit. And the reason I've even stepped into the boiling water is because something at the end of the day needed attended to. There was pain and I needed to deal with that pain. And I didn't have a lot of solutions. And the solutions that I had were very destructive. I would follow rituals and patterns that would lull myself to sleep. By the way, none of this is me saying I get a pass because I'm being lulled into not being aware of my choices because I'm making choices as I'm going through this experience.
There's still accountability for every
There's
choice along the way.
so much accountability.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not going to escape that. That's not even an option. I can pretend
Million
like it
choice
is.
points.
Yep.
Mhm.
But that is an experience where I go where I drift from the frontal cortex, from the front part of my brain where my values exist. And then things happen in my life that go some that I emotionally can't take. And I go, I need to cope with that. And it sends me on this pattern, it sends me down these patterns and these processes to handle my emotional pain. But it lulls me to sleep. It lulls me to that survival part of my brain. Um,
Almost a choosing to numb out as I see it so often.
in what is extremely dangerous ways that don't seem dangerous to the surface level, right? Because I'm able to identify through recovery, like the danger isn't like in the porn or the cheating. The danger is anything that will put me to sleep, anything that will take me away from ability to make conscious choice. So so to answer your question, there was a question, how could I do that? Or what? What was I lost
To
track?
risk everything we built together.
Yeah. Because I couldn't deal with the pain and that would send me down a path. And that's a hole that can't be filled. Like we talked about, can never be enough. With that, I need to just a really quick thing on dopamine because a lot of this is fueled by dopamine. Dopamine is something that I use to feel reward, but it's also something that if I get a lot of it, I can't feel it anymore. I can't feel that level of dopamine. And it's also the way that I combat pain and I counteract pain. So I give myself dopamine and that helps me handle my pain. But the problem is the more dopamine I get, the less that it works. So I have to get more intense with the level of dopamine that I get. So it takes me to where I'm out of that conscious space because of how saturated I am with dopamine. And then what that means is it's a more intense experience, which causes me to act in those ways to answer your question a lot of why did you not understand the risk? Because I wasn't fully aware. Can we just say more about how that I'm still making choices? Because I feel like that I don't want to come across as I get a pass because I'm not awake.
Yeah, sure. Because what I was going to say is like I've studied the science on this for years. This is all about like the CSAT training, and what you're talking about is the book Dopamine Nation and all of her research there. I know the science, I know the research. And betrayal trauma, those betrayed parts, there's no answer that's going to feel good or satisfy. How could you risk everything?
Thanks.
There's just no answer that I know all the research. And I can sit down with a partner and I could show you all the research and it may hit you logically, like analytically, like I hear you, cognitively, I get it. Emotionally, there is no reason that could ever make sense of how somebody could risk, especially if you felt that there was love in the relationship and you felt like there was trust. And so I just hold that going, great answer. And for those who are listening to this who have been betrayed and that answer is like, that sucks. That doesn't,
Uh-huh.
and it feels like he's giving himself a free pass. All of the research is there, all of the understanding around how the brain works and how addiction works and the rituals and the cycles and all of that can make sense. And that still doesn't make it make emotional sense on how somebody could risk everything for them.
Yeah. And that's where, like, that work that I have so much respect for y'all doing is that separating yourself from his behavior. It's not about me. And that's done by going and doing that work and processing that in that place where it's safe to process it. And I'm sorry if your partner's not in a place to be able to hear you talk about that because that sucks.
It is, it's so painful. And as humans, we just want to be heard and understood,
Yeah.
especially in a pain like this.
Yeah.
Okay. I know we went longer than what I said we were going to go. Luke, thank you for volunteering your time.
Mhm.
I think that I have in front of me 40 questions. We hit three. Maybe we'll have you come on and we'll do this again, but thank you for
Well,
answering those questions.
I really hope that I get to see some of you at the intensive. Obviously, I will, but it's such a rich experience, and I hope that I get a chance to see you. And I will give you. Can I? Is it okay if I give some encouragement, Alana? Here, I hope this is like the levels of appropriate. Gosh, damn it! Like v- families and couples spend so much money and time and resources on his recovery. Please put yourself first. Please get what you need. Invest in yourself, not just financially, but time wise. Oh my gosh, the sacrifice of everything you do that you have to put down to come take care of you for a few days. That's a lot. I don't know. I don't get it. But yeah, just please put you first with these types of experiences.
The healing that we do as individuals is so much bigger than us. When you get your healing, it not only impacts you, but if you have any children, if you have a partner, if you have loved ones, coworkers, friends, your healing ripples out, but especially if you have children. And so prioritizing yourself is so much bigger than just you. But even if you lived in a vacuum, which nobody does, you are still worth getting your healing.
And I want to tell you about Alana, talk about while you're here. I love watching her because what's really important to her and the other women that put on this intensive, because I know other people are working really hard, is they are really interested in you getting catered to, you being taken care of, you getting put first because you're doing that for everybody else, and it's about damn time that it happens for you. So anyway, just
Yeah.
excited about it.
Okay. Thank you, Luke, for coming on and answering those questions. And to our listeners, thank you for hanging out with us. I normally end with, we'll see you all next week, but this is a bonus episode. So we'll see you in a few days. And thanks for joining us today.
Hi, this is Hallie Roderick with Choose Recovery Services, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about our upcoming Courage to Thrive intensive that we'll be hosting in Spanish Fork, Utah on October 23rd through the 26th. If you're a woman who's experienced betrayal trauma, we would invite you to consider joining us in Spanish Fork. It's a beautiful time to be in Utah. The fall leaves are coming, and it's a great opportunity for you to take the next steps forward in wherever you're at in your healing journey. At these intensives, we like to create opportunities for you to actually experience healing and not just learn about it. So, we'll be addressing the topics of healthy boundaries, learning to rebuild trust in yourself and others. We'll take a look at grief and how it shows up in betrayal trauma. and so many more things. We also have some opportunities for you to experience some somatic healing because we all know that trauma affects our physical bodies as well. So if you're in a place where you want some additional support, taking the next step forward in your healing journey, please check our show notes for more information on how to register for the upcoming intensive. And I hope to see you in Spanish Fork on October 23rd.